everyone, welcome to another What I Would Have Done Thursday. I was unfortunately unable to make the videos that I wanted to make on Thursday and Friday, so I'm going to be uploading those today for you as well as Saturday's video. So there will be 3 videos consecutively coming to you about various topics. Now, in this What I Would Have Done Thursday, I'm going to briefly address a film that I think definitely is considered one of the really bad eggs, especially when it comes to comic book films. It's probably up there with Catwoman. And as you can see by the title and the thumbnail, that is Elektra. Now, Elektra, I think, does suffer from a lot of problems, but I think these problems could have been significantly reduced had there been some changes made, and I'm going to discuss those changes within this video, because usually what reviewers like to do sometimes is just criticize the movie, while sometimes I think it's good to look at, what could have been done to ultimately make it better. So that's kind of what I do for those of you who are new to this channel and what I do when it comes to this particular video segment. Now, the problem I think that we can that I think a lot of viewers had with Elektra was the fact that her character was fairly dull. There is not a whole lot going on with her. I think what usually happens is a lot of time when females are put into the more, I guess you could say, non-traditional female role, like they go out and they, do kung fu or whatever, for some reason they become less interesting, at least in my opinion. It's something that I have significantly noticed. Like, obviously there's exceptions, like a character like Ripley or maybe Sarah O'Connor is another example, even though I think she can be kind of mean at times. And again, I think that this is sort of what ends up happening a lot of the time. Is usually the female character becomes dull. She's boring. There's nothing really interesting about her. She just goes in and just busts through the door and whoops a bunch of dudes and, ends up walking out. And that's pretty much all that's to her, and that's pretty much all that Elektra does within this movie. And then the rest of the time, she's just kind of staring off into space, and, she's just, you don't hear her thoughts or what she's thinking, you really have no idea. You just feel like you're just watching a wall for the rest of the movie, and then suddenly that wall, rumbles or maybe does something, but the wall is still a wall. You know what I mean? There's nothing special about the wall. And I think this is definitely what happened with Elektra's character within this film. They didn't give her a whole lot of personality. And again, she doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses either. Like, there's one part within the film where she just heals, like, no problem, and she just kind of acts like Superwoman the whole time, and we're somehow supposed to be empowered by it just because she has weapons and she beats up people. Now, the thing that I think people miss, especially when I was doing research in regards to the comic, Elektra is kind of an anti-hero. Within this film, they try to make her seem like this you go girl, women, woohoo, power. But when you really look down at her character, she really is an anti-hero. She's kind of like Catwoman. She sides with whoever she wants to side with. She's an assassin. That already kind of spells out anti-hero right there. You know, she's not particularly somebody who we consider a traditional protagonist. This is not a character that's, you know, she's not really designed to be just good. And I think this movie kind of tried to push that idea, but I think that's very difficult to do, especially when you really look at the sort of heart of where her character comes from and actually what she ends up doing in the film, which is the majority of time going out and, you know, flinging her blades around and, you know, killing some people within the process and trying to protect some people at the same time, you know, trying to be that kind of hero. Um, but it's sort of difficult to do, considering the fact that, again, she's got nothing really all that going for her as a character, and primarily her character, the way her character is structured is a lot more like an anti-hero. And the reason why I say this is primarily due to the fact that the film, again, doesn't really focus on her and her backstory. And if you really do read in the backstory of the comics and you really read into, you know, her past, you'll kind of understand where ultimately she ends up being sort of raised to be, and that is an assassin, really. And again, more of an anti-hero character, not necessarily a hero. So I think that's just something that I think people for some reason seem to overlook, and I think they, in particular in this film, overlooked it because they wanted to make a female empower movie instead of making a movie that was genuinely associative to the Elektra character. Um, Also, not only did her character need to focus more on her and her past, and again, I'm going to display a couple of options what they could have done with this a little bit later, but again, if they wanted to which they should, in order to focus more on her, they need to get rid of the sidekick. Um, you know, we've seen the sidekick being thrown around everywhere in different films, and you know, and even then, you know, the sidekick is sometimes somebody who ultimately has to end up being saved, but maybe helps the hero in some way. You know, and in this one, they tried to do that a little bit with this one girl that she ends up being told to assassinate. Um, which, again, I think they should have completely cut. There was no point in having this person here. There is no reason as to why to make it um, about this other character and, you know, Elektra be fighting for her, because again, that's not really the essence of Elektra's character. Elektra's character is purely um, in something for, you know, self-gain. She's an assassin, you know. So again, I think they really struggled with trying to, you know, make it about, you know, that's the thing. I don't think this film should have been really about a female role model, as it should be just about a female character who happens to be an anti-hero. Um, Instead of trying to convey some kind of messaging. And again, that messaging kind of tries to go through with putting the sidekick in here who's a girl. But again, it doesn't end up amounting to anything, and it doesn't create a whole lot of interesting moments to watch. And again, this relationship is not dynamic. It's not interesting. So again, completely failed on that front. And again, I think Elektra is definitely not the kind of character who would kind of, you know, have this kind of a thing really going on with a having to assassinate a young girl. So again, I think had they just purely focused on Elektra, purely focused on her backstory and her evolvement as a character, and made her an anti-hero, not necessarily a hero figure, we probably would have had a stronger product. Also, um, in regards to the backstory, um, there in the comics from my research, it has it it was indicated to me that her mom, Elektra's mom, was killed by assassins. Now, there are different versions that sort of play out different scenarios as to what ultimately kind of results from that. But I think what could have been good was, you know, I think we could have had a good kind of um, a study of ultimately the father's kind of reaction to this. If, like, let's say he's somebody who's, and apparently I think he's supposed to be one of a high authority figure. So again, his wife gets assassinated, so it would make sense that he would want his children to protect themselves and defend themselves. So, it would make sense that he would try to train them and, push them, and in particular push Elektra really hard. And that pressure might be, too much for her. She might have some feelings of guilt on her part. So you can see a very kind of broken childhood end up sort of developing from that. And again, it would have created sort of a development and maybe some tension between her father and herself. And again, this is where um, the I believe his name is Stick, the sort of wise sage who comes in and trains her, could come in as well, and um, and also provide again maybe some guidance too. But at the same time, maybe maybe her father was just a little bit too forceful and too messed up from the scenario that happened to her mother, that ultimately the family ends up sort of splitting ways. Something like that I think would have worked better than not even addressing this really at all, because again, the film doesn't go into this. Now, if this film did want to be tied to Daredevil, which was the previous installment of this kind of Marvel universe where Daredevil exists and Elektra exists, then I think that could have been okay, even though I don't think Daredevil wasn't particularly that good of a film either. But again, and again, within the end of that film, she does end up dying. But again, it would have made a whole lot more sense if instead of the sage Stick reviving her, that the enemies, the hand ends up reviving her. Now, what I think could have come from this is that, as she is brought back to life, she doesn't have any memory of her past life. But she maintains all of her sort of physical capabilities, like she's really good at, with her martial arts and all of that. So she has all of her powers still. She just has no idea who she is. And so basically the hand uses that to their advantage so that they can create a sort of super assassin. So they make her, they go with her through all of this, really intense training, and they kind of, they kind of make her, kind of maybe brainwash her into thinking they're the good guys and they're, fighting this bad force and whatever, and, just kind of brainwash her. And then just kind of focus in on that, I think would have lended itself well. And see, this is where we can get the backstory, because eventually as time goes on, after maybe much, discipline and maybe Elektra coming into contact with certain things, like Stick, her former trainer, or other people, and I think they could even put Daredevil in this. I mean, why not include Daredevil? Like that makes no sense, movie. If you want to tie Daredevil into this, why don't you make him part of it? It's like having a second Avengers movie, but then not having Iron Man in it. It makes no sense. Put him in there, and you put Daredevil in this movie, even if it's about Elektra, and we know that she's the title of the movie. Have him in here because he holds a lot of significance, especially in the first film. I mean, without Daredevil, we wouldn't have Elektra. So, come on. I mean, put him in there. He holds a lot of value. It's like putting Batman within a putting Batman within a Catwoman movie. It just makes sense. But no, they don't do that. But I think something like that would have helped because then Daredevil's maybe going after these people, the Hand, and the Hand is basically just an organization of just evil people who assassinate people. I think they could make them out to be as they're after money, or they do all these maybe high crimes, like maybe black market activities, things like that. They could have totally made up whatever. That would have been fine. But basically, have the Hand be one of his like arch nemesises. And then when he comes in contact with Elektra, he goes, "What? You're with these guys? How the heck are you with these guys?" And then so maybe he tries to help her sort of restore her memory. Yeah, Dad? No. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Apologize, that was just my dad saying something. Now, back to what I was addressing. Okay, so again, I think that kind of dynamic would have worked a whole lot better than just not addressing really the backstory, just kind of throwing in these things that don't make sense and don't have motivation, not really giving, Elektra a reason to choose the things that she ultimately ends up choosing. Again, I mean, there are some reasons behind her decision making within the film, but again, there's a lot of stuff in it that really doesn't add up. But I think the plot scenario that I lined up would have made, I think, a lot more sense. Have the Hand be the person to revive her, basically. Train her as one of their own. She has no memory of her former life. Daredevil is an enemy of the Hand, and Daredevil comes and he tries to help her restore her memory, and she over time eventually figures out who's really the bad guys and who's really the good guys, and in doing so she overcomes all of her problems and eventually goes and kicks the butt. So again, I think that would have been a lot more of a realistic and a more plausible scenario within kind of a Marvel movie about her. And again, you could sort of make her out to be a little bit of an anti-hero, while at the same time, turning to the good guys in this particular scenario once she revives sort of her memory of her past and her former life. So again, I think that would have made a whole lot more sense. That would have been more logical. But basically, I think those were really the major issues, I think, when it came to... and the villains obviously were completely, non-dimensional and not interesting at all. But yeah, I mean, they could have been a lot more... There could have been a lot more structure with them, too, and they could have definitely played around with them a little bit more. But, yeah, when it comes to this film, the big nails in the coffin are Elektra's character and the plot. And if you don't have those things set up right, your movie pretty much falls into pieces. So yeah, had they made these changes, had they focused on her And again, I think they could have given her a little bit of personality. They could have made her maybe snarky or something, you know, just they could have given her feminine traits. I mean, it's almost like whenever a female character suddenly is put into a man role, they're like this, and they shoot, and they and then and they don't really have expression. They don't have personality. Um, and again, a lot of female characters end up doing this. It's really weird. I don't understand it, but they lose their personality. So again, I think putting in some sort of femininity, putting in some sort of, you know, some kind of trait that some kind of personality traits that I think could be sort of positive, you know, instead of giving us blank stares off into the distance, would have suited this film again a lot more. I think she could have been very snarky. I think she could have been kind of, um, you know, kind of she could have been one of those very sassy female characters, but we don't get that here at all. She doesn't display any kind of any of those things really. She just displays a red outfit, and then suddenly, ooh, it's like, ooh, she's sassy. No, no, she's not. No, the sassiness is in the personality. Um, but yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this film in particular. I think it has a lot of problems, but I think the problems stack up because of the plot, and because of Elektra herself. And had those things been significantly improved, I think we would have definitely got something, heck, maybe as good as Batman Returns. But and again, that's kind of an origin story too, sort of, you know, backstory and all that. So again, had they done that more with Elektra, we probably would have had something a lot stronger. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.